Today we have a company that is built on a very strong foundation of experience, education combined, and in a whole life cycle of architecture, engineering, constructions, and operations. Shrikant has founded a company as a SmartViz. So SmartViz focuses on data visualization on the operational phase of the project. It also solves the challenges of reducing waste and being a building or a built environment more operational friendly. What does truly smart means? Because we are hearing a lot of smart buildings. We need people who can advise on smart buildings. What is truly smart to you and to SmartViz in here? Smart buildings is a buzzword. Again, one of those things in the industry that everyone uses. My view is most smart buildings out there are actually pretty stupid and dumb. How does the government sees the return on their investment? What are the key things they need to focus on for the existing one? Very interesting question. And there's massive opportunity in terms of return on investment. Pretty much every client we are working with sees that return tenfolds in a very short space of time. The opportunity is like this. So Cardiff Metropolitan University, as an example, we went with a number of others, but 19% utilization is the actual. So they're planning for 30%. They're actually using 19% in reality. So imagine that other 81%. And it's not like that 19%, the target should be 50%, by the way. You don't want it to be 100% because then it becomes too crowded and not comfortable. We have .energy EPC, the certification. We got smart building certifications. But we're not really measuring what's the energy performance against per person, let's say. Okay. And one fundamental thing that keeps getting missed is the utilization. That should be mandatory to be reported. Like, what's the utilization of the building, especially the public building? It's all about data and human experience. So the way to drive change in the industry is firstly be data-driven and secondly be people-centered. If you put evidence in front of humans, the focus shifts away from challenges to opportunities, putting the evidence in the simplest possible way. A very visual, intelligent digital twin that you can see and say, that's the space I understand. Yeah, that's where I go and work every day. That's now the data. So much more into driving change, bringing evidence than messaging, but two of the top 3 tools for collaboration is emails and Excel. Now that is 90s technology, if not 80s, being used in 2020s. Hello everyone, new day, new podcast. Today we have a company which is built on a very strong foundation of experience, education combined, and in a whole life cycle of architecture, engineering, constructions, and operation. Welcome, Shrikant. Welcome on the show. Thank you, Rahul. Thank you for having me. I've obviously seen some of your past podcasts on CEO 360. It's a great work you're doing, giving people a perspective, 360 perspective of CEOs. And I'm just, flattered almost to be following the full footsteps of people like Patrick Schumacher and Ashnir Grover. So thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you, Shrikant. Shrikant has founded a company as a SmartViz. So SmartViz focuses on data visualization on the operational phase of the project. It also solves the challenges of reducing waste and being a building or a built environment more operational friendly. We will hear more about SmartViz and the achievements in the ongoing podcast. So let's begin. Let's begin with the first round of questions. My first question will be to you, Shrikant, on the early days of being in the UK. Started as an engineer and worked in various different jobs around UK. And you almost started with a PhD. How did all ended up and you founded a SmartViz? What made you go there? Interesting question, and thank you. Maybe the story could begin a little before my PhD even. Okay. That transition, I think, is very, very important. I was born in a small locality in the suburb of Mumbai. Went to a reasonably simple school. So the journey from there to doing
bachelor's and master's of engineering from a couple of eminent institutions in India. Then coming to UK and then PhD and ending up with 20 years plus of the career. What is very interesting is I did my bachelor's of engineering, mechanical engineering. Very early on, but really excited about computers and software. And that interface between how you use software to solve engineering challenges is what drove me. I spent countless hours, nights into computer center. And that really got me into Tata Consultancy Services, where I was one day working on projects with Bell Northern Labs in Canada. Another day, I'm creating some drawing management software for Hitachi. The next thing I know is I'm in UK as part of that, really working for the joint venture between Siemens and GEC Plessey Telecom. They're all very exciting work, except by this time I was recognizing that writing a software is quite exciting, but it's a tool that will be nice to apply to the core engineering challenges. And so that's where I went to do my PhD and then the postdoc between Manchester and Cambridge. And when I was at Cambridge, I ended up having lunch with a partner from Bureau Happold. And halfway through, I realized that it was actually an interview.
Okay.
And soon after, I found myself moving to, being offered a job and moving to Bath, where I spent a good part of my time working and setting up this little innovation team. Almost my entrepreneurship journey began there. So yeah, it's gone from really core engineering to software and then bringing it all together into an engineering, large engineering consultancy company. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds very natural, I would say, the journey there. So, in your experience, what comes first, a process or a technical solution to solve a bigger problem which benefits the people and the society?
It's a very interesting question. If you just look at the construction industry or the built environment, there are immense number of challenges. There's also immense number of opportunities. And you can look at the opportunities at both levels. At the very micro, bottom-up level, there are opportunities. You can actually refine the process of design, process of engineering, construction, and operations. Or you can go very top-down.
Okay.
How do you say, what's the state of affairs with our buildings of today? How are they performing? And you find that 40% of global emission comes from the industry, from buildings. Much of that challenge is because we don't really know how people use buildings.
Okay.
So that's where that approach to say, actually, what are we getting wrong? And what do you need to move the needle? And what you need is lots of data. Well, we've got lots of data. Technology is moving at rapid pace. Yeah. And why can't we utilize that in our industry to really address that challenge? So it is a combination of process, solution, but my view is really go top down.
Okay.
And understand where the opportunities are. And often the opportunities are to really define and bring that the data in the hands of the decision makers. I see. To demonstrate where the opportunities are, and then the rest of it follows.
Okay. We also studied on your website that SmartViz is also trying to solve the problem and giving practical solutions for digital twin. It's a buzzword in the industry right now going around. What is the digital twin? And with our last conversations, I understood that you have actually done the practical, I would say, implemented practical solution at Vodafone company. How do you think that practicality works from the design stage to the handover and operation stage?
Yeah, so again, like I said, our industry has immense challenges, and you could look at every segment, and whether it's just the process challenge or the fact that we don't have connectivity between different disciplines. There's a lot of silos at each stage, including operation, where there's tons of data that building generates, but you can't really access it. Which, addressing that problem, what we've also done is the industry keeps inventing new buzzwords. Like I said, we had BIM as a solution to tons of problems. And 15, 20 years later, we are still we haven't really moved the needle. Digital twin has a risk of becoming a similar buzzword, although it does have a real potential and it can address much of the pitfalls of what BIM wanted to but never really could.
Okay.
So in my view, a digital twin, standard definition is it's a virtual replica of the physical asset. But it's not just a 3D, kind of like where, again, we got BIM wrong and we can get a digital twin wrong, where a lot of people in the industry still see that as a way of scanning your existing stock and presenting at a million PowerPoint clouds to say, yes, now we got a replica. No, it's not. A digital twin is a living, breathing replica of your existing physical asset, which means it needs to be powered by data. It needs to show how your building is performing. It needs to show how it's really being used by people. And then it also needs to show where the opportunities are to improve the performance. So once you have that proper digital twin, the ability to conduct experiments on that virtual model before you apply it to the physical is where the opportunity is. And that's what really we've been cracking at SmartViz, to make sure that the digital twin is, in its true sense, a twin that you can build from even a simple PDF plan, floor plan, or a 3D model, a BIM model if you have it existing. In a couple of hours, you've got a model on which you connect then your any level of data that you have. So it could be something as simple as, let's say, the space booking data, desk booking data. And you immediately see a three-dimensional dynamic model visualized to show how you're using your test and meeting rooms.
I see.
You then put your PMS data, if you can access it, and that's basically saying your temperature, humidity, CO2.
Okay.
And you start to show your heat map of actually what your real operation in real time and historic is.
Oh, that's
You then connect your energy data. It shows you this is your energy usage pattern.
okay.
You overlay one on top of the other and you start to see actually you're consuming a lot of energy when there's nobody in the room, in the building even.
Okay.
And that's where all your predictive modeling and insights start to play. And you start to see a real benefit of what data, insights, and digital twins can provide you.
So that's an interesting insight. So we are actually defining a use case here based on knowledge and learning. So are you saying that digital twin can help to build a knowledge base, and then we can improve the buildings for the new buildings?
Correct, absolutely. So a lot of work we're doing with our clients, like Vodafone you mentioned, also Cardiff Met University, few city councils, etc., is firstly we look at the existing stock. So take Cardiff Met University, for example. Everybody was saying, most people there was like, we haven't got enough space, so we need to build more.
Okay.
They have a 10-year forecast of increasing student numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So already they're struggling with space, they think.
Okay.
And they've got a master planning team they had, which were working on producing more buildings of the same as what they have, without actually addressing what was wrong with the existing buildings. So we go in, firstly we take take hold of their timetabling data and the asset register and show that they're only planning to use their space about 30%.
Okay.
So with 30% land utilization, how come you have a perception that you don't have enough space? And therefore you keep building more and more and more. That single model was enough to get the university, the senior leadership, vice chancellor included, to say, let's pause.
Okay.
Let's actually look at, do we understand our existing stock and the usage before we drive the new master plan?
Okay.
Immediate effect was they saved 5 millions by not having to build these extra classrooms that were pretty much being drawn and designed.
Okay.
But the ultimate effect of that was beyond the timetable. We then went and put in a few sensors. These are sensors, and I can show you.
Yeah.
The peel and stick sensors.
Okay.
You can fit out a medium to large office in a couple of hours.
Okay.
Battery powered, you peel and stick, and they're running on cloud. They start to stream data. The data comes into SmartViz platform, and you start to see how much space you're using, how much energy you're using against that, and then also what the air quality and therefore the productivity and well-being of people are. What that did was not only save and help them boost the operation of the existing estate, it's also created now tons of knowledge base, as you said, about how people are using their buildings, when they use it, how much space they actually need, what type of space they need, and what size of space they need, which is fundamental to what you really should have for any master planning, any future bids. And that's the story is the same with Vodafone and a lot of other clients we are working with.
Well, that's a great insight to capture. Thank you, Shrikant. Thank you for lighting those insights. You coined the term as an intrapreneur. I only know about entrepreneurship. Entrepreneur was something new to me. So how can you create opportunities in intrapreneur? Because you said that it doesn't matter where you are, what you add a value, that's more important. So how can someone in a company can do intrapreneurship rather than entrepreneurship? I'm asking this because being an entrepreneur is in a fashion these days. So I'm more focused in learning how we can create a value rather than going in a trend.
It's a very interesting question, but with the clarification, I did not coin the term entrepreneurship. It's very common term. I will take credit for the fact that when I joined Bureau Hapord and I set up this team Smart, which became Smart Space and Analytics later, it was very clear it was about disruptive. It was about innovation, R&D.
Yeah.
But I did not want it to be a cost center.
Okay.
I wanted it to be basically an incubation, a profit center.
Okay.
Which meant that we went against the traditional notion of innovation and R&D, which every company needs to in today's age of tech and data. But we actually ended up creating our own products, our own services that spun out of that product. So we created SmartForm with parametric modeling and design optimization tool, and then SmartMove, which was really looking at how people move around the buildings.
Okay.
That helped us create a new service.
I see. Okay.
A consulting service, which we could go straight to our external clients, which meant that the company was able to work on projects where the other core disciplines weren't already. So we would work directly with other architects or with the end clients, and ended up working on some fascinating projects from Beijing all the way to LA, with city of Mecca, modeling all the pilgrims movements around that, to a little tourist movements in Highline and museums and offices and universities and school. It was pretty exciting. We were innovating, but we were also doing it with a client that was that had a problem, was ready to pay for the solution. So in many ways, it was a independent business that was being run as within the umbrella of a larger organization. And that to me is entrepreneurship, and which is distinct from entrepreneurship, where you're doing exactly still the same thing. You've got a product you're building, you've got a team that you're creating and building, and then you've got clients and services that you're running your own finance, your profit center, etc. Except you don't have that umbrella organization around you. You don't have the network of lots of other disciplines that you have otherwise. which has its benefits again. That it's very symbiotic.
Yeah.
You can treat that as an internal market as well.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, having incubation businesses like this means that the parent company can use that as a differentiator, get into areas where they otherwise can't.
Okay.
They can run things into areas where you need much more dynamism and agility, where the rest of the practice, once it settles, it's got its own little inertia and own priorities and the core service that you can't. But when I say here, you can go further. The difference, of course, with entrepreneurship, now that I'm on that other side, is that you're then able to go much faster.
Okay.
You're completely unshackled. You don't have to stick to a certain brand guideline or not be afraid to be away from the core services.
Okay.
Often I find me and our team just sitting or standing around with a like, here's a problem, here's a client, right? It's just us. Can we do it? And that's all you need. That just that passion and the determination. You can be so much more disruptive here. So yeah, I've had the fortune of being able to do both and we see the benefits of both. Yeah.
That's interesting insight. On the website of SmartViz, we saw there is a tagline of "Make buildings truly smart." Yeah. What does truly smart means? Because we are hearing a lot of smart buildings. We need people who can advise on smart buildings. What is truly smart to you and to SmartViz in here?
Smart buildings is a buzzword. That again, one of those things in the industry that everyone uses. My view is most smart buildings out there are actually pretty damn stupid and dumb, because they ignore one fundamental thing. So yes, they've got most high-tech facilities you can imagine. So elevators that are pretty smart. You got BMS that's pretty advanced.
Yeah.
You got parking sensors and but heating, cooling that are also pretty automated.
Mm-hmm.
But they ignore people.
Oh, okay.
So most buildings will not know how many people are in the building, where they are, and what they are doing. So all that high tech around heating, cooling, etc. is happening without that knowledge. Therefore, you'll be heating, cooling, ventilating spaces when there's nobody there, or it's only half occupied.
Okay.
So to me, a smart building, to make it truly smart, you have to really put people at the center of it. And occupancy utilization of a space is fundamental.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts. And that's what we do in SmartViz. What we do is, there are several sensors, but let me just say there are sensors like these.
Oh, nice. Can you show to the camera?
Yeah, the sensors like these. These are peel and stick. They would go under a desk. They measure temperature, and by proxy, they measure occupancy of a desk. Okay. Two sensors like these, which again are peel and stick. They would go on doors, and there's a whole range of IoT devices that we fitted these into Cardiff Met University. Couple of hundred spaces, around 25 buildings in 2 days.
Okay.
You can fit out a building in one afternoon generally. As soon as you do this, it starts to stream data about how many people in those different spaces.
Okay.
What's the air quality in that? And then if you connect your energy, and there are also similar energy monitors, you get that full view.
Okay.
And what we do is we connect that to a simple digital twin.
Yeah.
Where you see in real time and historic averages of what your space utilization is, what your air quality is, and then your energy performance, energy efficiency versus space. When you put people at the center of this design and decision making, you not only make your building truly smart, you're also then addressing the core challenge with most buildings, which is we are only using very small proportion of it. Okay, we keep building more. Without this knowledge, and we keep generating more and more inefficient buildings, which could be anywhere between 2x to 4x of energy spent from what actually was promised at the design stage. So that's where the difference and the gap you have in performance of what you design for and what you actually get. And to do that, simply having the smart technology and smart certification is not enough until you actually think about how your buildings are being used. Until you think about the user of the building, you're not really going to crack that.
I see. How do you think that it's a follow-up question? How do you think that an architect or a designer or engineers know this before even starting on a drawing board? Like how do you think, or it's a database which you are collecting right now, and based on that database you can inform the designers?
Yeah, I think it's everyone, starting from the end client,
Yeah.
and the architects, and then ultimately the government, that really need to have this initial transparency, let's say,
Okay.
that we keep building buildings.
Yeah.
Without realizing that we're only using somewhere between 20 to 40% of your existing stock.
Okay.
Secondly, with using the same norms, same standards that we've been using forever, there is now all of this data and tech that's available that can actually tell you what space you need, what type of space you need. So in your question about what can an architect master planner do, we're partnering with a number of architects and master planners where day one or month one of any master planning project is not to start to draw
Okay.
the new design. It is actually to understand how the existing campus or existing stock has been used. Like I said, this technology is now so accessible. You can turn up one afternoon for a building or a couple of days for a campus, and you start to measure real occupancy, real usage. That then tells you, it creates a brief for all of the above, like how much space you need, how you can make better use of existing assets first,
Okay.
before you say this is exactly what the new space requirements are. So this is pretty accessible. There needs to be a change in heart and mind. It's in an industry where we are really infatuated by the shiny new buildings or simply creating more buildings.
Yeah.
It's taking that step back and saying, do we actually need to build more? Actually, building less is probably the answer. And that's where I think the intervention that actually needs to come from the client, empower the client with knowing how they're using their assets.
Okay.
Industry, the design team, the contract construction team, and then also the government to say, there's a lot of public buildings out there,
I see.
that are being used somewhere less than 20%.
Okay.
So without actually getting them up to the right level of usage and to the right level of performance, should we actually be building more,
Okay.
or should we be building less?
Interesting. Well, that's the end of our segment 1. Thank you, Shrikant, for answering all the questions very patiently. Let's move to the second segment, which will be focused more around AI and the already existing assets. My first question will be, I was in a conference in India, and I understood a fact that for every one new asset to build, there are 6 existing. So how does the public, when I say public, it means government, how does the government can see the return on investment if we say that we need to also work towards the existing assets and not only the new ones? So how the government sees the benefits around it? How does the government sees the return on their investment? What are the key things they need to focus on for the existing ones?
Very interesting question, and there's massive opportunity in terms of return on investment. Pretty much every client we are working with sees that return tenfolds in a very short space of time. And let me just give you some examples. So Vodafone have got 1,000+ properties across the world. Okay. We connected all their data to SmartViz. Their CFO, global property managers and regional property managers are able to see every single building that they own and they manage down to a room level if they want to.
Okay.
But from that, they know how much space they are using versus how much space they have, how much energy they are consuming, and that gives them the hierarchy of here are the underperforming buildings that we need to release at the next lease event. Now that has helped them save 40 million already.
I see.
And you've demonstrated that there's another 120 million that they can release.
Okay.
Based on, again, that mismatch between how much space they have and how much. Cardiff Med University, the same, 5 million immediate saving plus realization that actually demonstration evidence that you're spending close to £1 million of energy when there's nobody in the building. Gas and electricity combined, 60-70% of energy is being used when there's nobody in the building. That is, you can save at least half of that, not by doing anything radical, by simply switching things off. Even simply elevating that is a huge opportunity. So there's a return is immediate. You bring the data to empowering the end user and the managers and the execs, and return happens immediately. The city councils we're working with, a lot of councils are struggling with cash right now.
Okay.
We demonstrated with Midlothian Council in Scotland, for example, that looked at 4 buildings. They can merge all of those into one.
I see.
Release 3, release the costs, maintenance, security, running with all of those. The opportunity is like this. So Cardiff Metropolitan University, as an example, we won't use a number of others, but 19% utilization is the actual. So they're planning for 30%. They're actually using 19% in reality. So imagine that other 81%. And it's not like that 19%, the target should be 50%, by the way. You don't want it to be 100% because then it becomes too crowded and not comfortable. But that mismatch is huge. It isn't just one university, every university. If you take all of the schools in UK, just look at the energy bills of those. It's in billions. It's all published.
Okay.
And there are studies we've done, others have done, which shows 50% of that energy is consumed when there's nobody in the building.
Interesting.
Imagine how much immediate cash you can release by simply connecting the data with a number of our clients. When we connect the data and show them on that digital twin platform,
Okay.
it isn't just saying that actually here's the building, here's the time. It also starts to tell you that because all that data is so inaccessible and it's hiding somewhere, gathering dust, only a technical person, a qualified person can look at it. That nobody even knows whether that data is being collected. So in one of the universities, we found that for 6 months, there was no energy data actually even being gathered. But once we connected it and we put it right up there with all the KPIs, that the execs could look at, suddenly all that data becomes very accessible. You find that actually there's 6 months where there's no data. And for all the other times, you actually have very clear insights on this is what percentage am I using when in the core hours, in the working hours, core hours like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and then outside of that. So the change can be then driven very, very easily from that. But it all starts with making sure all of that data that sits at the bottom really gets elevated and visible to the top. The opportunity is huge. Everywhere the building starts, we have got energy EPC, the certification.
Yeah.
We got smart building certifications. Yeah. But we're not really measuring what's the energy performance against per person, let's say.
Okay.
And one fundamental thing that keeps getting missed is the utilization. That should be mandatory to be reported. Like, what's the utilization of the building, especially the public building?
Yeah.
So that one factor drives so much further with it. If the utilization is low in some building, why is it low? Or in some spaces, and we find that in universities, in offices, there are rooms that are not used.
Okay.
Repeatedly, consistently, not because they have got surplus space. Everybody feels they've got a lot of space. They are all trying to put the same thing, same time, most of the time. It's also because the quality of the space is not there. There will be reasons like, some whiteboards in universities and schools. That's not quite, it's not great. So people will not want to book it. Now imagine the cost of replacing the whiteboard or fixing the air quality in those rooms, or ventilation or heating. What's simply building more has a role to play. There are immediate returns from looking at existing stock. And the key is to make all of that metrics very transparent and also very easy and simple to consume. I think that's where we're doing a lot of work. We believe that every building needs a very simple dashboard. Okay. It doesn't require a lot of cost.
Yeah.
If it has got data already, we plug it in. If it hasn't, peel and stick sensors, but it starts to give you those sort of three key metrics. There's the space efficiency, there's the energy efficiency, and then there's the whole air quality and productivity and well-being metric. It's not that costly, it's not that difficult, and the returns are massive.
That's a value-driven approach we are talking about. How much time do you think from installing sensors to giving you the data? What is the time SmartViz takes to give a dashboard, or let's say an insight around the data?
So often a lot of the data that we are talking about already exists.
Okay.
So if you say what's the easiest way to measure utilization in an office building or let's say a educational place, you've got some sort of a booking data or timetabling data already. And that's a spreadsheet that tells you which space is booked when. That you don't even have to wait for sensors to come in. You just connect that and it will tell you for every room what is the percentage utilization. You can go back 5 years and actually look at the trend straight away.
Okay.
If you can get hold of the energy data, again, you can go 5 years and get the trend straight away. If you can get air quality BMS data, and that's where some of the intricate challenges are. And much as every vendor would say that data is open, the challenge is to get the access to that.
Okay.
But that's what we do. We connect booking data, we connect BMS data, we connect energy data, and where that data is not accessible, you can then peel and stick these sensors.
Okay.
Now these sensors, like I said, most of those even fit out in an afternoon.
Okay.
And they immediately, almost instantly, start to stream data.
I see.
And how long do you need that data to create valuable insights? Often you get something and within a day.
Okay.
But then you let it run for a week and you see the Monday to Friday pattern.
Yeah.
You let it run for a month and you see any
Weekly variation.
weekly variations, and you let it run for you can run it for 3 months, run it for a year. Any seasonality can be managed. But you don't have to wait till you get the whole year's data, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
You start to incrementally, but very, very radically get more and more insights as you go. But is my utilization closer to 20-25% versus closer to 50-60%? That within a week or two, really.
Okay.
Unless you are starting in a Christmas week or in a summer holiday week. But that's why you need just a little longer. But like I said, a lot of the data already exists. Okay. So it's a question of where is it? Where is it gathering dust? And is it in a booking system? Well, that may have an API. If it doesn't have an API, maybe it has a spreadsheet that can output. And let's take that. Let's take a snapshot. We can go also back in time. So it's not as hard as one might imagine, might think, and that's what we make it really frictionless.
I see. We see a lot of spaces around where the smart lightings are installed. For example, if you go out from a room and you don't do any activity, the lights go switched off. Are you saying that those sensor or those sensor enabled lightings are not installed in every public building yet in UK or around the globe, let's say?
I think this is where the difference between a building that's smart is not actually smart, because you put the tech, and the tech has got a lot of potential, but it only does one thing.
Okay.
Like it switches lights on and off.
Yeah.
When to switch lights on and off, it's got a PIR sensor. That PIR sensor is capturing data about if the space is occupied or not.
I see.
That can be hugely valuable to work out, at least in terms of frequency of utilization of a space. Now, some of those systems are open, some are not. A lot of, again, silos in our industry means that you're really looking at one thing at a time. So a lot of lighting control systems do actually have this data.
Okay.
Obviously, it's part of the data. It just tells you if a space is occupied or not. But it's a very, very good start. There's universities we are working where we said, if you got lighting control data, you can get that out. There is Wi-Fi data. If you can get that out, we can actually do magic with that. Because with lighting data, for example, that's your frequency of usage.
Yes.
It's better than not knowing any idea of how you're using. With Wi-Fi, it's got its own limitation. But it gives you, again, not only something in terms of relative utilization across space, across time.
Okay.
But it also could tell you how an ID, completely anonymized, moves from one space to another, to another, to another. So you can actually build a whole picture of how a campus works.
I see.
Without necessarily censoring people or censoring devices, and keeping it very, very privacy conscious. At the same time, being able to work out how people are using your estate. So there is a lot of that data exists, and if the public sector or private sector wants to invest into this where it doesn't already, it's again the cost of IoT sensors are coming down. You don't have to be limited by your BMS or your IT systems. You can be actually pretty independent and very secure.
Okay.
With something like LoRaWAN devices, which are again battery powered peel and stick sensors that can actually start to give you a lot of that data without too much investment, without having to wait months or so.
Oh, that's good. Okay. I always thought that these lighting sensors are only sensing the lights, but that makes sense. If they are collecting the data, then that data can be used to visualize another story in completely different manner, and to save the costs and the assets.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. AI is another buzzword in the town. Everyone wants to use AI. How do you think AI will impact? And when I say impact, it can be more constructive. It can be more positive sides. How can the AI impact the business you are in, and how can AI empower us to get more meaningful data? Let's say to build a story around it, to generate a value around with it.
Yeah, again, very interesting and important question, Rahul. The story of AI is closely linked to the story of data and how you turn that into value. And again, everybody knows data is the new oil.
Yes.
But to me, it's kind of like the old oil where you need to process it and refine it to turn that into value. And that's where a lot of AI and machine learning actually comes into play.
Okay.
So what we do, SmartViz has this AI engine where you feed all sorts of data. Every data has gaps. Every data has noise.
Mm-hmm.
So SmartViz AI engine will firstly have machine learning models that learn the user behavior. So we get occupancy data, say, okay, so this is how people arrive into and outside a building or into a room. It learns the trend.
Mm-hmm.
It also detects noise.
Okay.
And it eliminates noise. So the end user, the execs really saying, here's my utilization.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of the noise. I don't want to know if the sensor actually didn't send data in few segments, or even energy meters didn't send data for months as we've gathered in some instances. It also detects anomalies.
Okay.
Again, machine learning model, then it gets into the predictive model. What happens if I close one floor?
I see.
Or if I close this building? What can I merge 4 buildings into one? Those are the possibilities that are all possible. And thanks to that's the core AI that we are using. Okay. The new buzz in the town is around OpenAI.
Yeah.
Which is extremely powerful with this large language model, which means you can have a human interface to not just on the raw data, but also the insights that our AI engine will generate. Mm-hmm. So we have, again, got very strong relationship with Microsoft. With that partnership, we integrated OpenAI engine, which is not just answering questions about which buildings and assets are high performing and low performing, but it's also connecting to the raw data. It's doing calculation on the fly, and it's detecting an anomaly and saying, actually generating alerts to say, here's where the challenges and the problems are. So there is huge opportunity, and we're really scratching the surface of what you can do with all this. And we've put it really at the core of a lot of the insights and the decision making that powers SmartViz.
Yes. I think coming from a podcast with Siemens, where I learned that data will teach us in which direction we need to go. And then coupling data with AI can actually give more broader insights and help in taking informed decisions. Is that what you meant when you said that data is the new oil and we need to refine it?
Yeah, I think that's the key. With or without AI, you do need to turn data into information, into insights.
Okay.
And that really gives you the top level KPI that you're interested in, which is what's my space use, what's the air quality or quality of space for both of our people, what's the energy consumption, so on and so forth. AI enables so much more because it isn't just removing noise and removing alerts. It can also learn with data.
Okay.
And the possibilities with the ability to have different agents that are actually taking charge of different functions within the building management, let's say. They could even be checking each other's work. It's insane what the possibilities are there. And what we are basically trying to do is to say, remove the noise, create the trends, patterns, not just show what's happening in real time, what has happened in historically, but also be able to predict the trend. Link it to external weather data. So you know in advance which buildings, which spaces are likely to suffer with low temperature, high CO2, etc. So you can take corrective action in advance. Well, and the opportunity just then starts from there, and you can actually then project it forward to say, how much building do I need? What kind of building would I need in future?
I think it will impact more on also on the investment decisions and how the capital projects will be seen in future. Thank you for this segment, Shrikant. Um, I have got really good insights. We can close this segment, but you used couple of acronyms. Would you mind explaining this to our audience? Number one was BMS. So what does BMS means in a very plain language?
So BMS is a building management system. That basically is basically a piece of hardware and software that controls the various systems in your building. That could be heating, that could be cooling, air conditioning, or lighting, or ventilation, etc. And there are certain protocols that they use for controlling various devices. So that is building management system.
Thank you, Shrikant, for answering all the questions in segment 1 and segment 2. Now we are moving to our final segment, which is segment 3, and looking for some questions around change management and how the SmartViz and what are the successes of SmartViz specifically. So, beginning with the first question in segment 3, driving innovative businesses has always been considered as the most challenging business in the industry. How do you think that change management can be well presented in front of the clients so that they can understand the value instantly? And what mindset change you think should be brought up in the industry and SmartViz can drive as a catalyst to do that?
Another very interesting question, Rahul. Thank you for that. I think for us, it's all about data and human experience. So the way to drive change in the industry is firstly be data driven and secondly be people centered. Because if you put evidence in front of humans, the focus shifts away from challenges to opportunities, I find. And if you put people at the center of your decision making and your argument, then people actually participate much more openly. So just to give an example, a lot of clients we work with, you can easily go in and say, we're going to actually take some space away because we are being not efficient, and they will worry naturally and rightly so. Well, you go in and say, we are basically saying most people in the organization can't find the space what they are looking for when they are looking for it. This is a challenge. This is a very human challenge. How do we address that? By firstly saying, here are all the spaces that we have that are heavily used and very underused. What is it about these spaces that are not great? Now, here's the evidence that says the air quality is bad, the facilities are bad, or it's just only available at a time when people don't actually want it. The evidence piece, when you put in front, and also it's about the human side of it and the planet side. So when we looked at Cardiff Met University, 19% utilization.
Oh, wow.
Right, the actual utilization, which means 81% of it is not really used, sitting there. So when you land this, and this could be applied to that one particular client or the whole industry, every square meter that we build first needs a build cost, then it needs a heating and cooling cost, then it needs lighting cost, the security cost, the cleaning cost, maintenance contract. And because you build this extra square meter, You now have to decarbonize it.
Okay.
It's something very, very strange happening, especially when you put in the context of 19% utilization.
Okay.
Why do you build more when you're only using 19% of it? And when we really use SmartViz to firstly connect the data and come up with metrics of what's the utilization in space, what's the energy efficiency, and what's the air quality, and we put that in front in a very simple visual interactive digital twin that nobody can challenge, or let's say it's indisputable evidence.
Okay.
But with the emphasis on people and their ability to perform better, the productivity and well-being metrics, the energy efficiency, that people participate, and that change management starts. We've worked in hospitals before where we started off with the nurses and the support staff, the doctors, addressing the estate team's problem, but actually focusing on people, patients and staff. So this is about creating a better patient-centered environment, a staff-centered environment, understanding where the challenges and bottlenecks are, then putting the evidence to say, here's some of the departments that are really used very high, and here are some departments that are used very low. Is there a way to co-locate them? Is there a way? That is the same with universities, where we're saying the challenge is around systems. You have challenge about behavior. Most people are trying to do the same thing. They're trying to book the same thing at the same time. Everybody's trying to use the same Tuesdays and Thursdays with hybrid working. Those are the challenges. So how do we address them? How do we make it equitable? And I think that's where, firstly, putting the evidence in the simplest possible way, a very visual, intelligent digital twin that you can see and say, that's the space I understand. Yeah, that's where I go and work every day. That's now the data. So firstly, that very simple and indisputable. But the other part then is to say, let's drive the change together, and people then join in. This is about improving the quality of experience as well as making sure that we save the space and save the planet.
I see. Yeah, I think you touched the base with very in a great way, that adding more simplicity in the communication with the executive leader will take you far than starting with as complicated as you can, because the details can be complicated, but communication and to show the insights in a very simplistic manner will always help to make them more clearly understand what the benefits will be.
Absolutely. I think that is also the challenge with the industry as well, that with every bit of change that we've introduced over the years, it's been very incremental because it's been very detailed. It's very bottom up. And so we have been refining the design efficiency. We've been refining construction efficiency and operational efficiency, but very incrementally, because it's always in the, let's automate something here.
Okay.
It's never been that top down, that simple approach. And that's exactly as you've very nicely presented. Top down means you say 19% utilization. 20% of the time your CO2 in your classrooms is going high. Your average temperature is 2 degrees higher than it needs to be. It's not there for productivity, not there for well-being, and it's not there for planet, because you are just wasting more energy. And then if you present it back to say, this is 50-60% of your energy is being consumed outside the hours. You present it in a simple way, and then you say, the solution to this is as simple as switching things off.
Okay.
You have a very different conversation, exactly as you said, with the leadership.
Yeah.
But that does require a change in the frame of mind.
Okay.
And going with indisputable evidence again.
Yeah. So that's very, very well
I would say, drawn to that on other calendars. And talking about successes of SmartViz, I recently understood that SmartViz has been chosen on a G Cloud platform of UK government. Can you please explain a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so we again, the benefit of being on a entrepreneurial journey is that you can really respond to the market needs and be unshackled, and so we're working a lot with public sector clients where procurement is one of the challenges. So it's not just G Cloud, we've also got very strong partnership with Microsoft. So we are on Azure Marketplace as a transactable service, which means any customer, private or public, that has got Azure commitment and part of their cloud framework can now use SmartViz, buy our products and services, and it will count towards their Azure consumption commitment, which means that they get much better deal on that. Likewise, we've got onto this UK's government's framework on G Cloud, which is their digital marketplace. So similar to Azure Marketplace, let's say, where a public sector body can simply buy SmartViz with the pre-published price and then the model of what they did. So those have been quite significant for us. Yeah.
When you say buy SmartViz, do you mean the services which SmartViz is offering, or it's the hardware and the software, or software as a service, what they can buy?
Yeah, it is. Our model is pretty much a SaaS model.
Okay.
Although we are in that transition from being a service model to a SaaS model. So effectively, if a client says, I want to monitor, manage space and energy and air quality in my one building or 50 buildings, then effectively that means how many spaces, how many sensors, and we pre-package, pre-configure all of that. We position this as a digital twin in a box, we call it, where we can post it to the client. They take it out, peel and stick, data starts to stream straight away. Or we go and do the installation for them, and it only takes hours. So it is that model where it is an equivalent of SaaS, that you can rent the software and hardware for 3 months or 1 year or 3 years as you want, or you can buy the hardware and then get the software on SaaS platform. It is also has a service component, but it's all bundled. We provide all the SmartViz as a platform provides all the interpretation and insights, those KPIs and tiles and predictive modeling all comes out of the box. But we also provide a monthly touchdown with the clients to interpret the data and say, here's where your opportunities are, here's where you're wasting energy, and this is what we can do to help solve that. So yeah, it is quite a close to a SaaS model, although we are also working very closely with our clients to make sure those changes are effected.
Thank you, Shrikant. Thank you for answering all the questions in segment 3 and being very patient with us. Just for a last question, I'm leveraging some relationships from there and trying to get more time for 5 minutes. Just the last question around it, that what tips do you want to give to the young professionals who are in their mid-careers, who understand the value of data and which can bring a huge impact in the industry, and they also have the knowledge how the built environment stages works. So if you have any tips, anything which they can improve in their career, please let us know.
Thank you, Rahul. I had so much more into driving change bringing evidence than messaging, but I will try. To me, our industry needs massive change, transformation. That will only come by disruption. Just to give an example, a recent survey from IFMA, this is the International Facilities Management Association, said that 2 of the top 3 tools for collaboration is emails and Excel. Now that is 90s technology, if not 80s, being used in 2020s. Our industry needs massive transformation and disruption. Now that disruption will only come with courage. You need that courage of conviction. Never be afraid to challenge the status quo. Challenge the fact that we may not need to build more. We may need to build less. We need to sort out that 80% of all the stocks that will be there in 2050 is already here. We need to make sure that they are efficient in space usage, efficient in energy usage. They're also creating healthy and productive environment for our workforce. So yeah, fundamentally, whether you're an architect, engineer, contractor, or a facilities management expert, I think we very, very ready, I would say, prepared to use evidence to challenge that status quo and make sure that we do what it takes to create buildings that actually become spaces for better people, place, planet going forward. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Shrikant. That's a really good tip to move with courage if you have data-backed evidence with you. Thank you for putting that so nicely. To close this podcast, this is the podcast which I was waiting for to get on the YouTube and to answer the questions which audience is asking, like why I started CEO 360. There is a whole narrative, there is a whole story behind why I started it. There was a lot of thinking have gone into place to understand why it's needed for the industry and why it's needed to drive in the correct way. So I'll come online and answer those questions. Bear with me and we'll see each other in 2025. For now, stay tuned, stay subscribed, and thank you for watching.
Thank you very much, Rahul, for having me. It was a fascinating engagement and conversation.
Glad you liked it, Shrikant. Thank you so much.